Thank you so much, Kerri, for coming on to the podcast. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Thanks, Christine.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you on. You are a longtime friend of mine and colleague. We have worked together and volunteered together with Lung Saskatchewan for years, and I know you have a really powerful story, but I am going to shut up and let you tell the story from square one. Kind of, what happened, what brought you to working with Lung Sask, and who is Kerri?
Well, when I was 41, so 5 years ago, I was not feeling well and went to the doctor and was told I probably have pneumonia and was sent for an x-ray. And at the time, they confirmed, yes, this is pneumonia. Take your antibiotics, come back in 4 weeks for a follow-up x-ray. So I took my antibiotics, started to feel a little bit better. And 3 weeks later, I was doing a whole lot worse and wasn't doing well at all. And phoned my after hours doctor, and they said, go to a clinic right away that has an x-ray and get an x-ray done. I did do that. They did not give me an x-ray. They gave me medicine to stop coughing, and it wasn't helping. So the next Monday, I went to my doctor, did a follow-up x-ray, and then was told very quickly, we don't think this is just pneumonia. You need to have a CT scan. And got a little scary. So then I had my CT scan. They said they still needed more information. I was referred to a lung specialist who phoned me and said, before I even see you, I want to send you for a PET scan. And up until then, the doctors I had talked to, the Medi-Clinic, like everywhere I went, everybody was like, it's not going to be anything bad. Don't worry. We just have to do this next thing. And this lung specialist, after my PET scan, sat me down in his office and said, is there any history of lung cancer in your family? And that was the first time someone was actually like, giving it to me straight, like, okay, what I'm looking at is pretty scary on this film. We're not shoving it off anymore. Um, and there was no lung cancer history in my family. I had never smoked, anything like that. So the next step was a biopsy. And the biopsy confirmed that it was, in fact, cancer. And at that time, we believed it was stage one, and I would have a surgery, take out that node of my lung, and it would be all fine. So went into the surgery thinking that's what it was going to be. And then after the surgery, I got the call about a week later saying the cancer is bigger than we thought it was and has spread into some lymph nodes. So now you need to do chemotherapy. So I did do
Jeez.
that.
What a scary, scary situation. I want to tell back to that moment when they were talking about, hey, you have something and, don't worry, it's nothing scary. Like we'll just keep testing. Are you are, how do you feel like in that moment you felt about that? Were you happy about people not giving it to you straight? Would you have preferred kind of like right from day one, hey, we're not comfortable with this? What happened there with you?
I think at first I just was going with it. I'm like, okay, well, we'll just figure out what this is, but what else could it possibly be? And one of the doctors along the way had mentioned, there's a autoimmune disorder that can cause things to show up on your lung, and so sort of like that. And then it kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, if this is starting to sound like cancer, because of course you Google everything and you start looking up, and
Yeah.
it kind of sounds like cancer. And then I did get to the point where I was like, okay, someone stop, everybody stop blowing smoke and trying to keep me calm about this. If this is cancer, let's deal with it. Like, you get to the point where you just want to know what it is so you can take the next step. And that lung specialist was the one who did that. And I just remember just saying, okay, you're looking at the screen, you're looking at the PET scan, is what you're looking at cancer? And he said, yes, I think so. And it was like really hard to hear, but also like, okay, so now what?
Yeah. Wow, no kidding. That would have been hard to hear. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So now we've done this surgery. Was it a painful surgery? Was it a difficult surgery? How did you fare?
Well, first of all, I would say the biopsy was way more painful than I was expecting. I did not expect it to be that. Um, but it was short and got over it very quickly. But the surgery itself was sort of a long recovery. They took out an entire lobe of my lung. So you only have three on one side and two on the other. So they took out one from the three. And so I found breathing very hard. It was hard to go upstairs, and I would sort of forget about it because if you're just, standing around or sitting around, you feel fine. And then I'd be like, oh, I need something from upstairs, and go bounding up the stairs. And then, like, three steps in, you can't breathe and sit down and take a break. And so it was more that the pain in the hospital, it was painful, but it was mostly because I had a chest tube in. So once that came
Mm,
out, then it was much better.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow, what a whirlwind. You go from completely healthy, just doing your thing, maybe you have pneumonia,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you're shoved into surgery. And now, of all things, after your surgery, no, it's worse. You need to go to chemo now. This
Yeah.
is a
That
lot
was,
at once.
yeah. Yeah. That was, I was able to really quickly wrap my head around having surgery and being done with it. And sort of everybody
Mhm.
around me was of the same mindset. Like, okay, it's a stumbling block. You'll go have this surgery. You'll get over it and it'll be okay. And we'll just move on then. Um, wasn't worried about, taking too much time off work or anything like that. And it was really easy to just tell my kids, going to have a surgery. There's cancer there, but we're just going to take it out and it'll be okay. But getting the phone call that it was worse than they expected and now you're doing chemotherapy felt a lot more scary, a lot less certain.
Course,
Yeah.
course. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Terrifying. Now, what did they say for the length of surgery and or no, length of chemotherapy and what their hopes were and what happened then?
So I did 4 rounds of chemo. They were 3 weeks apart. And I did have a meeting with my family doctor, and she was also very, like, blunt with me and said, this is going to be a year of your life. You don't just get
Oh.
over it. And she ended up being right. I didn't actually believe her at the time. I'm like, it's not that long. It can't be that long. But it was. And she was really good at talking me through it. Sorry, Christine, I forget what your question was.
That's okay. How long was the chemotherapy process for you? What was the next steps?
Yeah, so I started chemo right away, probably about 4 weeks after surgery.
Okay.
And so it went through Christmas, and then I was done the day before my birthday, February 18th, I was done. So yeah, it was about 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I knew that we have the same birthday. Not the exact same day, but very close. Yeah.
birthday twins.
Woohoo. Okay. All right. Well, that is an awesome birthday present. Chemotherapy, as I know, is very difficult, and I know that it was very hard on you as well. What was your involvement in regards to, um, it's a little worse than we think. We're going to do chemotherapy. Did they just kind of keep you in the dark until the end of chemotherapy and then test again, or were you testing along the way? How did it all go that way in terms of like your own hope?
They did not do any testing along the way.
Okay.
I remember my family doctor did say to me in that meeting that they did say in their notes, my oncologist said in her notes that the purpose of chemotherapy was to cure. And so
Mm.
she said, you don't always see that. Sometimes it's to extend life or something like that. But she said, the purpose is to cure. So everybody does believe we will be able to cure this for you. And so I did have that hope and expectation. But of course, your mind goes to, well, what if? And what if it's not gone after this? Then what?
Yeah.
But definitely, I did have hope.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
and I think that hope is such a big part of the process.
yeah,
Hope, belief, all of these sorts of things. I think it can be hugely helpful. You've got doctors saying to you, no, like you're going to be fine.
hmm
We believe that you're going to be fine, and that really infuses the patient with hope as well. And I think that hope is the best medicine. And so you've come out of chemotherapy. You are probably about to do some tests, I assume, to find out how well it did. Am I correct there?
yeah. Right away, I had a CT scan,
Okay.
and they phoned me right away and said it's all clear. So,
Amazing.
which was great. um,
Yes.
I was
Yes.
still in the middle of healing from the last round of chemo. It took me about a month to start to feel kind of normal after that. So, but it was very good. It was very good news to get at the time when I was, laying on the couch looking out my window, going, "Is anything ever going to be normal again?"
Yeah.
To get that call that it's all clear. And then for the first 2 years, I was scanned every 3 months, and
Okay.
then now, up until now, I've been on a twice a year schedule of going back and forth between an X-ray and a scan.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Amazing. And so the end of this year, so you finished your chemotherapy. Was there radiation next, or how did it work after that?
I was done. I did not have to have
Done.
any radiation. Yeah, it was just the
Wow.
surgery and the chemotherapy. And then a month later, COVID hit.
Yeah.
So just when I thought I was free to go out and finally live my life again, uh,
Yeah.
the world shut down.
I get to see this picture of Kerri like half out the door. Boo. We gotta go back in.
Yeah, and then everybody's phoning me and freaking out, and "You can't get this, oh my gosh," and "Wash your groceries," and people were delivering stuff to me. It was a very scary time because
Of course.
we didn't know how it was
Yes.
gonna go.
Well, you've got this lung resection, your lungs themselves are weak, your body is weak, you're immunocompromised. There is a lot of scary stuff,
Yeah.
for sure, right then at that time. And so you were kind of shoved back inside. Oh gosh. I I want to talk about the really beautiful moment with your family that you had
Mm.
post, when you got the all clear. How did you tell them?
Uh, well, I phoned my dad first because everything was phone calls then. It wasn't like,
Hmm.
it was just phone calls. But anyway, I phoned my dad first, and, uh, I said he said, "Hi, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm just sitting here wondering if you how it feels for you to be talking to your daughter who doesn't have cancer anymore." And he just started to cry. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. And it was a
Oh,
really good phone call to make because it just felt like all I had been doing was making bad phone calls, was always calling with bad news, you know? So, and yeah, at the time, well, he always is, but my dad was my constant companion through the entire cancer journey. He came with me to every single appointment and everything. So he was the first call, of course.
that's so
And then I
special.
told my kids I did a little hangman game with them that said mom is cancer free. So they got to pick the letters and then they figured it out. And we have a nice picture of them beside the whiteboard cheering.
Oh, I love that. That is
Yeah,
the cutest. How quickly did they figure it out?
pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
They're like, I know what this says. Aw, that's really, really special. That's
Yeah.
a really special moment. And I'm so glad, because we don't all get this, right?
No.
Not all cancer survivors, they get to tell their family they're cancer free. Sometimes they say, hey, I'm gonna have another couple of years, and sometimes it gets even worse than that. So, we really have to count our blessings, yourself, myself. And now, how long has it been since you have had cancer?
5 years.
5
I
years.
So this
The
spring,
magic
5
5.
years cancer free. I can't wait to celebrate.
That is extraordinary. That is a huge reason to celebrate.
Yeah,
The doctors tell us, for those listening that don't know, they say 5 years post cancer, if you haven't had a recurrence, then you're back to standard recurrence rates, which is, I mean, exciting, I guess. So,
mhm,
because, there's not a heightened chance. And so that is a hugely exciting, monumental time for you. 5 years
absolutely.
is big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So now I want to get into a little bit what what began your second half of your journey? Because I know that we've got the cancer journey itself, which was very difficult, powerful, life-changing, but then you have another half. Your second 5 years was wild. So tell me about what kind of got you into where you are now.
Well, when I was diagnosed, I was speaking with my oncologist, and she said because I didn't have any risk factors like smoking or asbestos exposure or anything like that, they said that the most likely cause of the cancer was radon exposure. So, as a realtor, I had heard of radon, obviously, but hadn't paid a lot of attention to it. So, I just started doing some research, and then I went to the Lungsask office and met some wonderful people there and started some discussions and immediately became an ambassador to with them and started sharing my story and it just became a whole thing where we created a video, my family was involved, everybody got very excited about, oh my God, there's something we can do about this, And how in the world did Kerri get cancer? Well, radon, what is it? How do we know where it came from? All of those questions came about. So anything we could do to spread the word about reducing your exposure to radon just became my family's purpose at that time, which
Which
was
is
awesome.
beautiful. Which
Yeah.
is so beautiful. And for those listening, can you tell us, Carrie, what radon is?
So radon is like the off gas that's in the soil, and it's from the breakdown of uranium in the soil. And so, obviously, in Saskatchewan, we have a lot of uranium, and so naturally, we have lots of radon in our soil, and it enters into your house as a gas that's you can't see it, taste it, or smell it, and it can cause lung cancer. So it's a
And
low
so it's
lying gas.
present.
It's present, and you would never know unless you test for it. So my biggest thing at that time became talking to people about testing for radon, testing your home, and then mitigating, which is possible, to reduce the levels in your home as much as possible.
Okay. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, see, that is huge because I mean, I know that we both work in the radon space. And it's fascinating how neither of us had heard of it really. Like you had heard of it through realtor work because you're selling homes.
Right.
But I certainly had never heard of it. And
Mhm.
yet we are both diagnosed with a lung cancer that is been really, really there's no exact test for it, but it has been concluded
Right.
through, process of elimination that there's no other option other than radon gas.
That's right.
And, my personal story is we tested my childhood home. I was fortunate enough to still own that home in my family. And so we were able to test my childhood home, or rather, we knew the family that bought it. That's what it was. Anyway, and so it came back high. Did you have an opportunity to have your home tested, Carrie?
Yes, I tested my current house that I've lived in for 10 years, and it was under the limit that Health Canada says, but I still did mitigate my house just to have the lowest level possible for my own, you know, um, benefit. But the house that I grew up in mostly, I actually lived in that house twice. I lived there with my children as an adult, and I lived there as a child. So that house had a little bit of a sketchy basement. So I lit my room was over the furnace room where the basement floor was cracked and stuff like that. So I was desperate to get that house tested. I don't know if that house has been tested, but I did go knock on the door one day and I had a letter for the owner and a test kit, and I just asked them to please test their home. I actually, through some research, did actually find out that the original owner of that home died from lung cancer. And when I found that out,
There you
I
go.
that's when I kind of freaked out and I like packed up this little package for them, went and knocked on the door, and I was like, "You don't know me, and I'm really sorry to do this to you, but I really want you to test your house." And
Right.
yeah, so I don't know if they have, and I don't know for sure that that was the house where my exposure was, but I
Mm.
did what I thought was right at the time anyway.
Certainly, and you did, and I think that you did what was right. We alerted the new owners of my childhood home, and it was scary for them, but they thanked us,
Yeah,
because now they had children in the basement too. And it's really important to mention here. I think that a lot of people, upon hearing this, might go, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I mean, if they follow my podcast, they already know about radon. But if this is a new episode for them, then perhaps there thinking, oh my gosh, like I put my kids in my basement and there's a lot of like self-blame there. You don't know what you don't know. All you
Absolutely.
can do is work with what you know now.
Yeah.
And so I really love talking about how radon at one point was something that no one knew about in the US, and now everyone knows about radon. And
Mhm,
so now they know better, they do better. And
mhm,
Canada's following suit, which is really great. And I'm really proud of us. And it takes change makers like yourself, like Saskatchewan, myself, to, really get that ball rolling. And it's becoming more and more known, which is wild to me that we've known about asbestos forever, and then
mhm.
now just in 2024 people are starting to go, oh yeah, I've heard of radon.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations on the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Huge steps there. And so yeah, so as a realtor, I know that you've worked as well in the realty space to help bring more awareness to radon gas. Tell us a little bit about that.
The biggest thing was, when I was first diagnosed, I actually, at the time, was doing, like, little short videos with a colleague of mine, Tara, which is also my bestie. We were doing little short videos, we called them Friday Fives, and we had done a couple on radon at the time when I first started learning about radon. And then when I was diagnosed, we did a longer video that talked about radon, the effects, and then, of course, my cancer diagnosis. And, at that time, that story then got picked up by news stations and I was interviewed. And then, so the real estate community in Saskatoon was really paying attention, just basically because it was people that I know. And they were like, hey, that's Kerri. And what in the world? And so I had lots of realtors start phoning me, asking questions. And I still, to this day, real estate agents will phone me and say, I was just talking to a client and what's this about? Can you test your house for radon? How do you do it again? And what's the things? And so I will answer those calls anytime and I will do any kind of education that would be offered to speak to the real estate community and help. I think one little stumbling block with the real estate community is that it's people don't want a reason to scare their clients,
Mhm.
but so I'm trying to change that narrative a little bit with realtors to say, it's not something to scare your client. It's just information that you have that you can share with them that they can then test their house if they choose to. After they've taken possession of it, it's not something to be worried about. It's just another homeowner expense. Like, you plan, eventually you have to change out a water heater. Eventually you have to change a furnace or windows or something like that. You might eventually install a radon mitigation system. It's just, I don't want to scare people, but it's easily mitigated in most homes, and you can very quickly do something about it if you find that your house is high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I love that. I love the reframe of, it's just part of like buying that CO2 monitor and, or buying that radon mitigation fan or whatever it is, having an installer put it in,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, just a homeowner expense. I think that that's a really important reframe
Mhm.
because people hear, what if I have this deadly gas in my basement and they're panicking and they're thinking like, can I remove this? Is this possible? Is it going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars? And the answer is no. It
That's right.
is it's like replacing your water heater. You gotta something you gotta do in order to keep your family comfortable, now to keep your family safe. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Simple. Love it. Okay, so I love, and I've always loved, when people can take their experience and find a gift. Now, of course, going through cancer is not a gift, but suffice to say, I've heard you say this, so I feel comfortable. But your gift has been what? When it comes to cancer, you've gone through this awful thing, and yet you're saving lives. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels really good. I've heard from so many people that they've seen my story. I think at the time, one of the biggest impact from my story was seeing my family. And my we did a video with Lung Sask that got put out, and it sold so many test kits. It was incredible. And the most powerful part of that was my parents speaking. My dad made
Huh?
everybody cry, and my children.
Yeah, you
My
did. Yeah. I cry every time I watch it.
My kids were in the video. At the time, they were 15, 13, and 10. And so they're just like, I look back at the video, I'm like, they were just babies then.
Yeah.
And they've changed so much in these 5 years. But for them to share in spreading the word, it just meant so much. At the time, I still am a hockey mom, I was a dance mom, so people recognized me as a, very approachable and, like, relatable person. So I think sharing stories, it just relates to people so much. I remember walking through the cancer clinic, and, there's lots of posters on the walls everywhere. You're familiar with this. And it's like, someone who looks unwell or, um, just doesn't, it just wasn't relatable people. But for me to
Right.
be sitting there with my family, with my children, and people know the kids in the community, um, sharing stories, you just have no idea what effect you have on people. And so as we went through it, and you run into people at the grocery store or something, someone always related to a different part of the story or a different person who was involved in the story. And so that's why I think sharing is so important, because you just have no idea how you'll impact people. And then I've heard so many people say, I tested my house and it was high. Oh my God, I had no idea. I mitigated. Or I tested my house and it was really low, so I feel great now, and that's awesome too.
Yeah.
Hearing people give their feedback to something at the time as simple as sharing your story, it's created an impact that, it will stick with us forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That moment when their eyes light up and they're like, "Oh man, like I'm gonna get tested. Thank you so much." You're like, I like, did I just like help save your life? Like it's so
Yeah,
exciting, to be part of.
it's
Like
so
it's my
exciting.
favorite thing I do, for
Yeah.
sure. And I'm so grateful to you for inviting me in because it was actually you who invited me to all of this. So thank you. I don't even know how
Instagram.
we met. Yeah.
You slid into my DMs on
DMs.
Instagram. Yeah.
I was like, "Hey girl, fellow lung cancer survivor."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and that was great too. I remember when we first met in person, it was in Edmonton,
Oh
doing
yeah.
the Tackle Radon promotional photo shoot and all of that stuff. And I just remember sitting at the table with you, and we had so many similar stories. And it's so good to talk to other people, especially people who have or are trying to have a positive mindset and do something about it. And it's just so impactful to have those conversations. So
I
I'm
totally
wonderful.
agree. Yeah, and well, and we've had a lot of fun too, which has been really fantastic. I mean, how cool is it that we can help save lives, which is of course the core of it, but then still, have a lot of fun along the way. We've had an opportunity to meet, football players and be on billboards and travel, go to where did we go? Ottawa, Edmonton, I think Winnipeg, which nobody
Regina,
cares about Winnipeg, but
whatever. And we will
all
go to
these different.
Ottawa again
Yes.
once the
Yes.
political situation dies down a bit.
Well, there you go. And yeah, we'll go to Ottawa, yeah. But like just so many fun different places in this effort. And so, that truly is a gift as well. Because,
Yeah,
why can't we have our cake and eat it too, have a blast and make a huge difference in the world? So
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
amazing. So if someone was in a place, so you've really taken your pain, you've turned it into some form of power. I always preface, and it's really important, that everyone's version of power is different. For some people, it's standing on a block as a realtor and saying like radon gas is a real thing. You know, for
Yeah,
other people, it's, going home to their family and, really capitalizing on the fact that, hey, I've got this second life. I'm going to spend, more time with my favorite aunt or, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what your version of pain to power is, but what matters is that you find your gift. And you truly, I believe, Carrie, have found your gift. You light up, you are pushed forward by this. Whenever we get together in those sorts of spaces, you can tell you're really lit up, you're really in your purpose, in your power. What would you tell someone who recently was diagnosed with something and they're thinking like, there's no way this is gonna be a gift. There is no way something good's gonna come out of this, that I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
What's a piece of advice that you might give that person to give them some hope that someday they might be sitting here laughing and talking about how they met all these CFL players and they've had all this fun and they've
Yeah.
been able to, change the world as a result?
My advice would be to be careful what you listen to. Be
Mhm,
very, purposeful of what you listen to and watch and read. Uh, I remember when I was first diagnosed, everyone told me to find support groups and all this stuff, and I did, and I very quickly deleted all of them. I found so
mhm,
many of them very, very negative, very draining, and very sad. I wasn't in a situation where it was grim for me. I did have a lot of hope that it was going to be okay. Of course, I was scared. I got all my affairs together. Had my will and living will. I had all that stuff taken care of, but um I would say yes, be very careful about who you're surrounding yourself with, and then definitely listen to stories. Listen to positive stories, even if they have nothing to do with a diagnosis or anything like that, but really um, surround yourself with as much positivity as you can, and not sickeningly so. Of course, you're going through something very difficult, right?
mhm.
But find those people in your life that are your army, your cheerleaders, and but who also let you be sad sometimes and let you talk incessantly about your worries and what you're going through. But yeah, surround yourself with the best people in your life who will put their arms around you, and then yeah, be careful what you listen to. I still to this day, I don't watch anything scary. I don't listen to scary podcasts. I just can't do it. I stopped. Well, I was never someone who liked anything super scary, but I'm very careful. I watch TV that doesn't stay with me when I go to bed at night. You know,
Yeah,
there was enough going on in your mind at the time just to, you know, watch comedies and
yeah.
just surround yourself with some positivity.
I think that's beautiful advice. I really do. I think it's such beautiful advice. There's enough pain in this world. Why not fill your space
Yeah.
with joy and happiness? And you know what? Every once in a while, you got to stick your head in the sand and be like, I don't know what's bad happening,
Yeah.
because to surround yourself with it, it can really pull you down. And I love that. I think that that is so powerful. I agree. All of the groups for me was the same story. I just was like, this is heavy. I don't want to
Mhm.
be part of this. I want to be part of a group that believes that we're going to be totally fine,
Mhm.
because that belief is so deeply important to your own healing in whatever form that is. So, yeah,
Yeah.
100% couldn't agree more.
Some days it's, really hard to take I remember people would always say to me, "You're so strong. I can't believe I would never be able to go through with this." And that's not true.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't any stronger than anybody else. I had to go through with it. I had 3 kids
Right.
at home. I was a single mom at the time. I didn't have a choice, you know?
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
you're so strong because you have no choice. That's a little bit of a it's a funny thing to talk about because you're like, "Well, thanks, but I have to do these things, these bad, scary things." And so my other piece of advice is to take as small of a step as you can forward and keep the people around you who are there to take the little small steps with you to drive you to the lung or to the cancer center or wherever to go get blood drawn or anything like that, to have people with you and to always have someone with you who can take notes so that when you're sitting there talking to a professional, health professional, doctor, naturopath, whoever you're surrounding yourself with, that you can be present for the conversation and not worrying about taking notes. I would always have someone there with you to take notes.
Awesome. Awesome advice. Well, thank you, Carrie, so much for being here, for sharing your story so vulnerably, letting us know what radon gas is and how we can begin to move forward to getting it out of our homes so that we can be safe. And, really just being the advocate that you are and the friend that you are to me.
Well, thanks. It's one of the gifts that have come out of this is meeting you.
There you go. Such a pleasure.